I don't recommend to start an AI journey without really like having a problem that needs to be solved. Yeah, because starting and building AI just for the sake of building AI, this usually doesn't go well.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Engati CX. I'm Aish, and for this episode, we have the pleasure of welcoming Martin Musiol to our interview series. Let's begin with a quick introduction of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code chatbot platform, available across 14 channels with 30,000 bots, created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has been recognized as a top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 300,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest. Martin Musiol is the senior data scientist at IBM in Europe, the co-founder and the instructor of Generative AI.net, and the co-founder and former CTO of Storybeat, a natural language processing company, working with the publishing industry and providing customer-specific newsletters. He's passionate about machine learning, more precisely deep learning architecture such as generative adversarial networks, also known as GANs, and that are able to generate images, music, videos, and other kinds of data. This is generative AI, and it will eventually help us in producing next generation products. But before we get the inside scoop from Martin himself, remember to subscribe to our channel. So let me start with our first question. With advancements in AI, how's it going to change our daily lives?
First of all, thank you for being on this show. So how AI with all of the advancements is going to change our daily lives? So this is a big question. So I think first of all, it will, in middle term, like short, middle, and also long term, it will basically automate all the tasks that are repetitive and can be automated in a sort of easily. The most dominant examples, I would say, are the self-driving of cars, assembly chains that are more and more automated. I think when it comes to building a car, up to 95% of it is already automated, and obviously the last percentages are always the hardest ones, but I guess eventually we will get there, that we are fully automated. And I think it goes in that direction. Yeah.
That's really exciting to look forward to. Thank you for sharing that, Martin. So moving on to our next question. With more developments, AI is going to start taking place at the edge, close to the point where data is gathered and used. So how will this be helpful to businesses?
Well, so the edge, when AI goes on the edge, that what it actually means that the calculations are done and the algorithms are running on these edge devices. Yeah, we have like different levels of edges. Being the simplest level is like the sensors, and then with each level we have more and more computing power up to the central point where we have centralized all the information and make sense out of it. Mm-hmm. And what we now see is that it's distributed through the computing clusters, right? Through these little computing edges, and we can already, on the way up to the central, let's say, decision point or insights making unit, we can already make sense out of the data on the way there. So what the result of this is, we can process more data faster and implement thus more machine learning algorithms and that need obviously computing power. So the bottlenecks are basically flattened out across the infrastructure.
Yeah. So what would you define as an edge? If you could just share with our audience really quick.
An edge is pretty much, it starts with a sensor somewhere in a lake measuring the water quality. And then in between steps, such as some microcontrollers, bundling many sensors, getting all the time series data out of this, and and identifying, oh, here we have an anomaly. Then we give this anomaly, like with certain algorithms. There are many different anomaly detection algorithms, and these information already like pre-processed, or yeah, to a certain degree processed, can be then forwarded further to the next instance that says, okay, we have an anomaly here in this water region, we have an anomaly in this water region, something might not be right, and then, yeah, or maybe we have one here, we don't have one here, so what happened in the middle? And I don't have like a very crisp example right now, but this is more or less how it works. And I think with this abstraction, many companies can, yeah, they can find new business opportunities through this, because they can process much more data in a shorter time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So how is AI, especially NLP, going to change the world of conversational agents?
In the field of NLP, a lot of things have happened already in the past. Yeah, so it's up to a degree where it's already quite good. You can see it talking to Alexa, or some other conversational devices, where in the beginning they really didn't understand much, and they had to ask multiple times up to the degree where they couldn't make sense out of what you were telling them. And slowly you can feel that they are understanding better. So you can, you can observe that so far. And but there are still many steps on the way to really become truly conversational, yeah, like we are talking right now. So for instance, one issue is co-referencing. So when, for instance, I would say, I like this blue car, it is nice, yeah. So this co-referencing makes sense, yeah, it is nice, you know that I mean the blue car. But if something is, there is a red car behind the blue one, and I think the car behind will surpass the front one, this is already a bit more complex, and these conversational devices are, yeah, Alexas and Googles and stuff. They have troubles with finding these references.
Mm-hmm.
So we had in a client in a client project, we had a similar problem where in large documents there has been talk, they talked about many different entities, or from a it was in the field of oil and gas, and in these reports they were talking about many different entities, and then referencing these entities at the end of the document, and it was really hard to map that across multiple pages and text that has been mentioned. But I think it is an ongoing research, and we can expect some improvements here. We have also seen that, for instance, Google's BERT. Not sure if you heard about it. It's this NLP model that can identify certain entities within text quite efficiently. And so when you what it was also, I'm referencing from a client situation, will not mention the name. We needed to find these many different entities, but sometimes entity names couldn't be distinguished between is it a region or is it the name. So it was sometimes it was literally the same spelling, same everything, and writing concrete rules to identify it was then not feasible anymore. So in order to distinguish, you need to really look at the full context of the sentence, and because we could understand, okay, this is not the area, it's actually the name of that specific thing. And so with the Google's BERT, you can train it. You can also, yeah, you can train it. You label the text. You run multiple iterations, and at some point, the algorithm picks it up and can identify really what you want to identify. Yeah, the entities. Yeah, these are open source algorithms, and what we often do is we see what is the cutting edge. We at IBM, we see what is the cutting edge technology right now that is really dominantly working, ideally open source, and we utilize it for the respective
Mhm.
project or problem at hand. Yeah, and that was successfully so far. So I see the NLP is a very dynamic and ongoing research area, and I really think much more is awaiting us.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of scope for it. I recently read about the text-to-text transformers, and it's really becoming sophisticated. Like the amount of things they can do in terms of question and answering, it's incredible.
Yeah. Also, if you look at translating algorithms, yeah, from one language into another, it almost perfectly works right now. Almost perfect. Yeah, obviously there are some tricky cases, but it's really well usable. Yeah, I have many friends that cannot speak German so much, so they just take the letter or whatever they got, they copy and paste it into a translating web page, and they understand everything. And it's perfect English or what language you have. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
For sure. I remember before, when we were in school, we would have those teachers who would always say that they could sniff a translator from a mile away. But now
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely becoming more sophisticated because they're starting to understand the context of the sentence we're trying to say more.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. So it's really exciting to see how things are changing.
Yeah.
So in terms of planning a journey of implementing AI, how should businesses go about doing so? Like how can they plan their journey with implementation of AI?
Mm-hmm. So this is what I'm seeing on a daily business, basically, because I'm working with clients directly. We have many conversations about how they could start their own AI journey. The first not problem, but the first thing to really keep in mind is I don't recommend to start an AI journey without really like having a problem that needs to be solved. Yeah, because starting and building AI just for the sake of building AI, this usually doesn't go well.
Mhm.
So but I would recommend to think about what AI can actually solve, and then see, okay, where could we apply AI within our organization? This makes sense, but not the other way around. Yeah, and so first, the most important thing is you need the talent, or the people that can actually implement it.
Mhm.
Or if you don't have it in your organization, then get someone externally that helps you build that organization, that builds these capacities and capabilities. Um, yeah. So if we talk about the self creating department, this is, I think, quite hard for organizations, because you really need to put money. Yeah, you need to take money and really build a team. You can, like, one data scientist is always, it's always going to be a hard situation if you only have one. Ideally you have a team, but this costs a lot of money. And but yeah, if you have a dedicated leadership team, then yeah, it's probably possible. I'm more on the other side, where you bring external people in. There you have a concrete problem that can be solved. Like, for instance, digitalizing. You have certain contracts in your organization, and you want to understand. You need to have these letters, these certain numbers, whatever, like numbers, these some numbers and names, and you need to extract all the information out of all the information out of contracts, let's say, and you want to digitalize it in your organization. Maybe also to see where are we paying too much, or where are we missing money, and so forth. Um, and there are some assets around to do it via maybe some open source things, but it will not properly work if you don't have the talents that can implement it properly and tweak the algorithms if necessary.
Mhm.
And if you then bring in external people, like, for instance, IBM, we first we have already many proven assets, algorithms in the back that we have deployed at many different clients, probably from the same sector. So we would bring in a team, we would bring in our capabilities, software capabilities, we would implement these extracting algorithms that extract all the numbers and names that you need and store it in your database. Yeah, and then what we also do is we then create a team with you. Yeah, we transfer our knowledge. We help you to manage the AI systems, and then perhaps also brainstorm in a garage method or something with what else is possible with now all the digitalized data, because then actually the fun part begins. Then there are opportunities are often limitless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So are there any other thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, also linking a bit back to the question before, often I that's also what I've seen. AI is not always the perfect solution. Yeah, so sometimes there are problems that can be solved easier and with simpler algorithms in a faster time, cheaper and understandable, because often AI is also not so well understandable. Okay, how do we explain the results now? This is also a really open question. I can touch on this in a moment, but yeah, sometimes there are simpler solutions. Yeah, it's not always the fancy solutions, I think. But as problems are getting more complex, then and rule algorithms or some simpler algorithms are hitting the limit, then that's, I guess, the latest point to think about in machine learning. Yeah. So this and yeah, when you implement an AI or some machine learning algorithm, some classification of image classification or whatever, then often it is not very clear, like, how did it classify this as a dog, yeah, to put it very simple, and not as a cat. And there are algorithms to make these machine learning pieces like explainable. Yeah, I think the one is called Line, the other one is called I don't recall the name now, but it makes sense to also implement it if you need to understand a really in-depth knowledge on what has been trained here, or if you need to explain it to someone else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you brought up a really interesting point about sometimes it's the simpler solution that makes the most sense. So I think it's really the fact that you mentioned that was really helpful to people who are also thinking about it, because sometimes AI isn't the be all end all, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen it quite often also from junior colleagues, no matter in which organization. Then obviously they're coming from university, they have learned fancy, like really like good things, yeah, and on a theoretical basis, and then they want to put it to work, but often it's just a detour, yeah? And you can fix a problem much faster.
Thank you for sharing that, Martin.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for giving us your time. Your insights were really valuable, and I know our audience is really going to enjoy this interview.
Yeah.
If you've stuck around for this long, we're so excited to announce that our ebook, The Evolution of Customer Experience, is out and available to download. So check the link in the description below for more details. We'll be back with a new episode with a brand new expert soon, so stay tuned and we'll see you around for the next one.